Salisbury getting backed up after his burnout. He had the lane choice by virtue of a quicker elapsed time in the first round of eliminations. He chose the left lane and gave this man one of his toughest jobs, and that is negotiating the very tricky right-hand lane, which has been deteriorating rapidly as this event wears on. Qualifying started on Friday. It was very quick as Hank Johnson qualified with a fine 5-second time. But since that time, particularly the right-hand lane has been getting a lot worse. Let's see how he fares. And both cars go up in smoke, but Dwight Salisbury recovers first and wins the race by just a... The new world champion, Rob Bruins, driving for Gaines Barkley. And it is surely with the lane that has been giving everybody such trouble. That smoke you see coming off the tires, that is literally burning the rubber. They are burning those tires as there's not enough traction to handle the 2,000 horsepower. The lane choice going to Rob Bruins. He takes the left lane, obviously the better of the two. Shirley has got to try to master that tricky right-hand lane. And she smokes the tires. Rob Bruins pulls ahead and maintains about a car-length lead to the finish line. It's Rob. The grand old man, Big Daddy Don Garlits, has the lane choice, and he's taken, obviously, the left-hand lane, as Dave Yohara with a real strong burnout. This is intentional, that smoking of the tires. The reason the tires work much better when they are hot, and the burnout is done out of a puddle of water. Here, let's watch. You see the tires starting to spin very rapidly and the smoke coming off of them, burning the rubber. It does two things. It heats them up, it gets them clean, and it puts more rubber on the racetrack. But all the burnouts in the world have not helped that right-hand lane thus far. And Dave Yohara, with the good, the bad, and the ugly, that's the team of Velasco, Cohen, and Oswald, is picking on one of the toughest top fuel racers ever. Over 2 decades, sitting behind at first, and then credited with developing the first workable rear-engine dragster, is Don Garlits. Yohara, one of the better West Coast drivers, has been on the national trail this season. But this is his toughest one of the year, as he's got the grand old man, Big Daddy Don Garlits, putting down his face mask, getting ready for this run down the Ontario quarter mile. Garlits leads very hard. Yohara smokes the tires, almost to be expected. And look at Garlits with the lead. And how about this? Low elapsed time of eliminations. Seal of the Blue Max. He has a bye run, a single. His competition was to have been Larry Dixon. He had an easy go in round 1 as Dixon's competition, Terry Capp, broke on the starting line. But Larry crossed the center line during his run and was disqualified. So a single for Dave settles in the Blue Max, trying for lane choice. Let's see if he gets it. And a 6.28 second, no lane choice for Dave when he won the Fall Nationals title at Seattle International Raceway. Raymond also winning the Summer Nationals in his quest for the lead in the World Championship Series. His competition on the line right now is Jeb Adolph, and Adolph is having problems with Pat Johnson's car. He cannot get it into reverse. He's down track after his burnout, trying to get the car to back up. Now, here it comes back. He may be having problems with the shifter, and what a break that would be for Raymond Beadle in this first round. As he said earlier, he needs to win each round and stay ahead of Don Prudhomme in his quest for the World Champions title. Again, still some problems with Adolph as Beadle begins to move to the starting line, and he may get the break that he needed. A single in the first round for Raymond Beadle. And the all-important World Championship Series points keeps mounting for you guys. We'll see. And they're on the starting line finishing their burnout procedure. Tom McEwen, the Mongoose. Don Prudhomme, the Snake. They've met many times before. But for Don Prudhomme, this is the most critical in his quest for the World Champion title. The burnouts are finished. They're approaching the starting line at Ontario Motor Speedway. And it'll be Tom McEwen out first. Prudhomme smokes the tires. It's over. Goes to Ron Colson. And still the racetrack providing lots of problems for all these drivers. We'll see if McEwen's got it figured out. He had the good lane the first round. Now he's got the bad lane. Can he pull it out again? And Colson's car makes a bit of a move to the center line, but it moves way ahead of Tom McEwen. And Ron Colson wins it 6.3. Off the lane choice. Trip Shumake gets it. Driving Johnny Loper's Little Hoss out of Phoenix, Arizona. But Beadle, a very crafty veteran. Maybe he's got it figured out, that tricky right-hand lane. Both cars now staged. Let's see. Shumake up in smoke and Beadle up close to him. But just no horsepower at the finish line, as there it is. Trip Shumake wins it. 6.6 difficult so far today. He leads well, but there's no power there, as you can see. Gordy Bonnin just pulls away to a very easy win, a fine 6.40 alongside of Force. And in the left-hand lane, or the good lane, is Joe Pisano's car, driven by Tom Ridings. Ridings has advanced up from the Pro Comp ranks. Those are the alcohol-burning funny cars. Now in the nitro burner of Joe Pisano and smoking the tires, going all over the racetrack is Ridings. He's still in it, but from behind comes John Force, just sticking with it. Ford panel truck, driven by none other than Wild Bill Shrewsbury. Behind Bill sits an alcohol-burning supercharged Hemi engine that puts the panel truck on its rear wheels. And it stays on its rear wheels all the way through the quarter mile and a lot more. Sparks flying from the skid plates, the back of the car. The Model A Berry Wagon heads down the track. Wild Bill Shrewsbury at the controls. Well past the finish line. Crowd, Amy Faulk. It was his 5th trip to the final round, and he finally pulled it out as Garley Daniels Jr. defeated Jim Allen. Daniels, driving the Chevrolet, won the world champion title in modified eliminator. In competition, the big head start went to Larry Torres, but the roadster of Robert Newbery came from behind and was first to the finish line for the competition eliminator world champion title. In Pro Comp, it was his 6th event win of the season. He is the Grace Cup champion and now the world champion, Billy Williams of Torrance, California, defeating Brian Raymer. In Pro Stock Motorcycle, Terry Vance in the near lane going a little bit crooked as Bob Carpenter took that measure to take the win. In Top Fuel Motorcycle, the runner-up at the U.S. Nationals, Jim Bernard, defeated Pee Wee Gleason at the World Finals. Back to racing, and it is Pro Stock Eliminator semi-final round. Dino Don Nicholson of Orange, California at the wheel of the Ford Mustang, and what a story here. Earlier this season, Dino Don and Ronnie Sox ran into each other. That's right, they collided on a racetrack. Both cars were totally demolished. The drivers A-OK, but Nicholson having to go back to his earlier Ford Mustang. It's a couple of years old, but the driver is 52, and he's still right in there with the best of them. Against him, the winningest Chevrolet of Frank Iaconio and Ray Allen, and it's a whole shot for Frank Iaconio, and he extends his lead at the finish. Iaconio wins it 8.66, the title, before the World Finals ever got underway. For the 15th straight time, Bob Glidden has qualified in the #1 position. The lane just as tricky, that right-hand lane for the Pro Stock cars, as it is for the higher horsepower entries. And Glidden, with a quicker elapsed time the previous round, uses every bit of his horsepower in that Plymouth Arrow to his advantage as he takes the measure, up the tires, and in this case particularly, put down as much rubber on the racing surface as is possible, because they're trying everything to figure out what to do with this tricky traction condition that exists in that right-hand lane. The competition for Larry Frazier and Dwight Salisbury, the new world champion, Rob Bruins. He's driving the car owned by Gaines Markley, hailing from a suburb of Seattle, Washington. Salisbury retiring for a couple of years after campaigning his own. Jumping back into the driver's seat in the middle of this season and doing very well for car owner Larry Frazier. Of course, you know the story on Rob Bruins. He parlayed a series of divisional event wins and some fine showings at national events around the country to the 1979 World Champion title. He'd love to double it up right here at the World Finals, making it the World Champion and the World Finals Top Fuel Eliminator all in the same weekend. And a smoky leave by Dwight Salisbury. The track just not enough traction to hold the two pedals. The final race of the semifinal round, the Blue Max Dragster. The car's owned by Raymond Beadle, Foster Yancey, and Brad Camp. And Dave Settles, a very competent driver out of Dallas, Texas, does the driving. But he's got his work cut out for him as Big Daddy Don Garlits has got that left-hand lane. He ran a fine 6.06 seconds in it the round before. And Garlits easily outdistancing Settles, but the lane choice will go to Bruins as he goes into the final of Top Fuel Eliminator against Rob Bruins. Here is Gordy Bonham, the Nationals champion. He's got that right lane. Let's see how he can do as he comes up against the Hawaiian, the car owned by Roland Leong and driven by Ron Colson. In the previous round, Colson ran a 6.35 second issue with the lower ET, the lane choice going to Ron Colson here in the semifinals. And Colson goes out of control and crosses the center line, which means automatic disqualification. So Gordon watches John Force, hopefully overcomes his mistake of the previous round, and will start the car in low gear off the starting line. He had a big break as he wanted his crew member directing him back into his own tracks, trying for the traction that he hopes, against hope, will be there. Alongside of him, Trip Shumake, driving for Johnny Loper. Shumake hailing out of Phoenix, Arizona. As he told Steve a little bit earlier, this is the first time he got to the semifinals of a national event this year. In the previous round, Shumake with a 6.60 easily outdistanced the time by John Force. But all important right now is how quick will they run to determine who gets the lane choice in the finals against Gordy Bonham. And they both smoke the tires. John Force drifting out towards the guardrail. He backs out of it and gets back in it, but it's too late as Trip Shumake moves into the finals. His elapsed time, 6.88. Frank Iaconio from Totowa, New Jersey in the Chevy Camaro. And a whole shot for Iaconio puts him about a foot ahead of Glidden. Can he hold on for the win? Oh, what a close race to the finish. And it's Bob Glidden wins it. Backing through their own smoke after a long burnout. Trip Shumake has the problem of the right-hand lane as wife Susie backing him into his own track, hoping that he can find the traction that no one else has found. His competition, Gordy Bonham, won his race in that right-hand lane the previous round as Ron Colson crossed the center line, and he ran quick enough to gain the lane choice over Trip Shumake. But this track has been very tricky in both lanes all day long. So it really is anybody's race at this time. Both very competent, very capable drivers. The third appearance in the finals of the national event. Thus far in 1979 for Gordy Bonham. As you heard Trip tell us earlier, this is the first time he's ever been there, and he's almost in awe of the whole thing. The burnouts are over. Crew Chief Jerry Verhill directing driver Gordy Bonham to the starting line. Shumake approaching those light beams for the electronic starting system known as the Christmas tree. The tree goes green, and both cars smoke the tires. Gordy Bonham recovers and heads across the finish line first. For the third time this season, Gordy Bonham wins and been waiting to see. Big Daddy Don Garlits against the new world champion Rob Bruins. And Bruins is the defending champion here at the World Finals, and he, in this race, has got the good lane, as Garlits, by virtue of elapsed times, only 0.04 of a second apart, but he was the slower time of the two in the semifinals, gets the bad lane. We've got word that Steve knows something about this race.
Dave, no one is more particular about weight on a race car than Big Daddy Don Garlits. He likes them featherweight. Yet his crew confided in me in the staging lanes that Big Daddy has added a significant amount of weight to the rear end of this car, trying to get it to hook up in that right-hand lane. He is crafty. Let's see what happens.
We'll know in just a couple of moments, Steve, as both cars have completed their burnouts. They're creeping into the staging beams. Will the weight make the difference for Big Daddy? The light's green, and it's Rob Bruins out first, but Bruins is out of control. He backs out of it, and here comes Garlits.